Chapter 11, Strellaran. When Hieronymus neared the age of 30, he expressed his doubts about the succession and his place within the hierarchy. To settle the argument the two men were having, his brother, Hezekiah, picked up a strip of black dyed fabric discarded by the artisans and settled it over his right shoulder, knotting the ends together at his left hip. He told his brother, "I am your last resort, Hieronymus. It is my job to make sure that you keep grandfather's promise." He stroked the black fabric and continued, "This will be the mark of my office, so you will always know that I take my obligations seriously." That was the first time in our recorded history that the sash of office was used. It is now an integral part of our succession. Tremaine, Capitulo 10. Zakarian took a deep breath and said, "Father, I did want to speak with you and Amador about the future." He gestured to the bench, encouraging them to sit down. Zacharias studied his second son. He wore a robe reminiscent of the one that Sebastian was wearing when they first met, with long ornate sleeves and a simple braided cord around his waist. Once they were seated, Zakarian looked like he did not know how to broach whatever subject was on his mind. After a lengthy hesitation, he glanced at Amador and the two brothers exchanged a speaking look. Amador smiled and looked back at Zacharias. "We have been thinking, Father, about the future." Amador's voice had the strength of his self-appointed ecclesiastical calling. Not only the near future, but for all generations. Zakarian will be 30 on the 40th day before autumn. Zacharias could sense the tension in both of his sons. "As I have taught you, from the time you could first speak, this is the time when you must find your mate, and upon the eve of your birth anniversary, you must give your soul into her keeping." He addressed his remarks to Zakarian. "From all that you have told us, Father, it is a most wondrous experience. I look forward to that time, though I have not yet discovered the woman to keep my soul." "Your Kaylee," Amador corrected. He glanced at his father and said, "It is an apt word, is it not?" It was a pet name Zacharias called Estoliana, but many of those who came to live in Estolia considered it an official word, with a specific meaning. As Sebastian reminded him, all new languages begin from the seed of older ones, and it is a beautiful word, with, now, a beautiful new meaning, the keeper of a man's soul. Key and I even made a special symbol for it. "Your title, then, will be last resort? From now until Zakarian becomes king and his child is named and numbered among the Estolians, I am his last resort. Like you, I will be one of his counselors throughout his reign." His pause went on so long that Zacharias wondered if his son was having a conversation with deity, while the world around him turned immobile. When he did speak, his voice had that resonance of a proclamation from deity. "Once I have found my own Kaylee, on the eve of my 30th birthday, and have been in seclusion, on the 8th day my Kaylee and I will keep the soul of Estolia. We will be both solace and strength for the king, his children and all Estolians. And yours will be the ultimate authority for any disputes or difficulties." Zakarian's voice was rich with satisfaction. "Do you not see, Father, what this means?" Amador said earnestly, "You, who began our nation, have been both king and keeper, but it has been a difficult position to hold. It is much better to split the roles you hold and give half of your responsibilities to each son. We will rule together, the shining Strellaran that Key inscribed on our flag." He gestured to the carved flag on the stone staircase. "We are but 3 men. Why are there 4 Strellaran at the center of the flag?" Zacharias asked. Zakarian jumped to his feet and approached the flag, raising his hand to point at the stars. "When Amador and I have passed our burdens to my sons, my brother and I, and my 2 sons, will be the Strellaran of Estolia, the 4 men whose word is final, the ultimate authority, and those in whom the word of deity resides." "What of those other stars?" He gestured to the 2 stars on either side of the mountain peaks. "Can you not guess, Father?" Amador asked him rhetorically, before answering, "The 2 on the left are representative of the rising generation, while the 2 on the right represent those who have come before." He pointed at his father. "Deity has promised us never-ending prosperity, so long as we keep the promise I made." He got to his feet and the 3 men embraced. Zacharias was brought back to the present. His sons were waiting for his response to Amador's question. Kaylee is both apt and beautiful. He looked from one son to the other and then asked, "What concerns you on this day, my sons?" Amador spoke passionately, "Estolia is new, without any set traditions. But we have the promises of deity that our nation will never fail. It is our responsibility to develop traditions, define roles, and establish the critical steps of the transition from one generation to the next. We must assure that our descendants have no doubts about their duties, nor the consequences of defiance. And you believe you know how the transition from one king." Zacharias tapped his chest before pointing to Zacharian. "To the next must transpire?" As he suspected, Amador had thought it through. He elaborated about his ideas, and when he was done speaking, Zacharias felt the familiar wash of warm approval coming from deity. Yes, Amador was inspired in his plans, and deity wanted to make sure that Zacharias knew it. "What do you think about this, Zacharian?" he asked his oldest son. "It makes sense, father. You are still quite vigorous. You have frequently mentioned how important it has been for you to share your burdens with Sebastian and Key. Now that I am nearing 30 years, it is time for me to take on the role of king. Explain your interpretation of your brother's plan," he commanded his oldest son. "I will find my Kaylee and give my soul into her keeping on my 30th birthday. We will be in seclusion for 7 days in the Spirit Grove, and at the end of those 7 days, we will seek the sanction of the Spirit. But you will not be king just yet?" Zacharias asked. "No, father, no man can be king without an heir. Deity has said that an heir will be born as the visible evidence that our exchange is approved, a son who will in his time take on my role. 7 days after the birth of my son I will become the king of Estolia. You will be needed, father, to counsel Zacharian when necessary." Amador interjected. Zacharias turned to his second son and asked, "And you, Amador, what process will your own succession take?" "I was born a year and 2 seasons after Zacharian, and it is important that I, too, find and give my soul into the keeping of my Kaylee before taking on the role of spiritual leader." Zacharian added, "As a last resort, Amador is available should I suddenly sicken or die." Zacharias remembered the words of deity, saying that his second son was there, as a last resort, not only if illness should render his oldest son incapable of being king, but also in case Zacharian, or any heir chose to break the promise Zacharias made to deity.